Absolutely. I think one of the things that I've noticed, and I think one of the lies I think that has been confronted in my life, is even as I've been like in classes at Grand Valley or at different workplaces, is sometimes there's like a feeling that I need to be like an incognito Christian, that I need to like sit down and then I need to work really hard and then prove myself. And then when people see my character, then when that time comes, then I'll bring up Jesus, right? Now, is that true? Like, should we live with character? Should we live and prove ourselves and work hard and like be above reproach in those ways? Yes, we should. But I am a big proponent of let's introduce people to who we truly are. And I've heard it said that evangelism is simply talking about the one that you love. And we see it all the time.
Yeah, it's good news.
It's good news, right? It's good news. And like
the gospel is good news.
Yeah. And so when I sit in a classroom, I think when I've adhered to that idea that I need to like prove myself before I can ever share about Jesus with anybody, is that time when I share about Jesus with anybody never comes, because I'm never going to be able to reach that standard of proving myself as like the exemplary Christian.
Yeah.
I always fall short. And then the enemy uses those things where I fall short to say, see, you can't bring up Jesus because what if they ask about this? You're disqualified. But when you come in, and I remember even like my first day of class this year, in senior year, I walk in and everyone's asking about what are your goals for this year? What are your goals for this year? New Year's resolutions, all those things. And it comes to me and I say, I'm a man of God. I love Jesus with my whole heart. And I feel like he's asking me to do an extensive reading plan. And so that's one of my goals, is to complete this reading plan in the Bible. And that sparked a conversation. I can't tell you how many Christians were in that classroom that I had no idea, that now feel comfortable to talk to me about faith.
Yeah.
And how many other people that now I've said that thing, but then I lived it out the rest of the semester.
Yeah.
And
there's a statement that's coming to my mind, and I understand the statement, but I don't like it. So it says, preach the gospel always, if necessary, use words.
Right.
Which is like, live the lifestyle, love people, be kind,
right.
And then if necessary, then your life, and everyone will just be like, wow, you're such an amazing person. It's just like, oh, you must love Jesus. And it's like,
yeah.
I'm sorry, that is not accurate to reality.
Yeah.
No, we should be nice. We should be kind. We should be loving.
Absolutely.
But I love what you're saying, is like, we live in a culture that is actively like trying to silence and suppress and condemn Christians and say, just like, you can believe what you believe, just be quiet about it.
Right.
And it's like, if we just are going to take that mindset of like, always preach the gospel, if necessary, use words, then we're going to create submissive, passive, and fearful Christians. And I think what you're saying is just like, listen, somebody has to pioneer. Somebody has to pave the way. Why can't it be you in your workplace?
That's right.
Well, I'm afraid to get fired. Well, I'm not saying to get fired, but I'm just saying like, there's like, you'll have a reward in heaven if you get fired for being bold about your faith.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
an eternal, and I'm not telling you to be foolish, but at the same time, you can't be fearful.
Yeah.
And easy for me to say, I work in a church, but like, I'm not going to get in trouble for talking about Jesus. But I hear what you're saying is just like a principle of like reaching peers is to not be like sneaky. Like, don't try to be sneaky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like that's so interesting.
You don't be an incognito Christian. Just be who you are.
Yeah.
Like, you're walking into this workplace, and that was the one thing. I was feeling all nervous when I came into my first day of class this past semester. I was feeling all nervous because I was like, okay, I have to prove something. I have to say this right thing. I have to do all these things. And the Lord just like reminded me of 2 Corinthians 2:15, where he says, Jared, you are a fragrance of Christ to the saved and to the lost, no matter where you go.
Yeah.
He's like, Jared, be who I've made you to be. And that gave me so much of confidence. And I was so like comfortable, and I was secure in my identity. And when I walked into that place, I sat down. And then when it came to me, I wasn't nervous and stumbling over my words about me saying who Jesus was. It was just me saying, well, I love Jesus and he loves me.
Yeah.
And this is what I feel like he's calling me to do. And so that's my goal for this.
Yeah.
And
yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned 1 Corinthians 2. 1 Corinthians 1, talks about how that the wisdom of this world will look at God and they'll mock it, right? But it says the Greeks cared about wisdom, the Jews cared about something, and it's just like, but God's wisdom is foolishness to man. And really the 1 Corinthians 1, the last part of it is really addressing this idea that the world will not understand you.
Come on.
It won't understand the gospel.
So
If it understood the gospel, they'd be saved.
Right.
And so and it kind of brings up to a point of like when it comes to evangelism or being public with our faith or being, unashamed, it's Romans 1 talks about, of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. Too many people, I've fallen into this before, like too many Christians in the West, right? In America, and not our group is like, Access is like bold, right? We have a lot of people that are passionate and unashamed. And so like, I'm not speaking to you saying you're doing a bad job. I'm just saying like culturally, like let's move beyond this, right? Let's have more people at Access, more people in our city be bold about our faith. It's going to make it easier on all of us, right?
Absolutely.
Not easier, but like
it
is setting the tone and changing the atmosphere of our city.
Come on.
And the thing that I've noticed is we want to like, it's like there's this weird thing that we don't even want. Like how do I say this? When other people find out we're a Christian, we want them to say, "Oh my gosh, like I didn't even know you were a Christian." Yeah. And we take that as like a badge of honor. Like, oh, I'm like so like not religious that they didn't even know I was a Christian. And it's like, let's pause. That is not a good thing.
That's not, no.
No, it's a good thing to be relational and relatable, but at the same time, if people are like surprised that you're a Christian, like that's probably not a good thing. Like we should be like set apart. We should be different. We should be operating at a completely different level than the world. Right. They should look at us and say, there is something different about them.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be like, oh, wow. Like I like you even more, I don't know. Do you get what I'm saying?
No.
You don't want to add to it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just kind of like this idea, and it's largely where our culture is going with the inclusion is the highest moral value right now. It's like accepting a bunch of people into this thing, and the more people that you can accept, the more people you can understand and have empathy for, the higher you are viewed in society as being a moral individual. But the way of Jesus is open to everybody, but it's exclusive in the avenue that you get there.
Yes.
You have to come through Jesus. There's no other way by which man can be saved. And the reality is there's no other God like Jesus. There's no other worldview like the biblical worldview.
Pull your mic up for a second. It's just it's dripping
a little bit.
Yeah, it's falling a little bit. There you go. I feel like Joe Rogan. Can you pull that mic up a little bit?
Come on. But I just think of like what Jesus says. I think it's in Luke 12, but he says, if you're ashamed of me, then if you're ashamed of me and my message like on the earth, then when you stand before God, like I'm going to be ashamed of you. And sometimes like we feel like we can't live out our faith.
It's fear of man.
It's fear of man.
It's like we're afraid to be rejected. We're afraid to be labeled as hateful or bigoted or ignorant or narrow-minded. And it's like, it's 1 Corinthians 1. It's like, that's what the wisdom of the world says. Where's our allegiance?
Right.
And I think that only comes in, like, we can talk about intimacy with God and how that relates to evangelism, but that's where, if you don't have intimacy with God, you'll never last.
It's so true.
If you don't have history with God, the world's going to eat you up.
Right.
If you don't develop conviction as a young person and say like, no, like I'm going to pursue Christ on my own, the world will just eat you up because you'll be conformed to the patterns of this world.
And especially with our generation, we're looking for something authentic.
Yeah.
And we've seen the people who say all of the right things and then live the other way. And honestly, our generation's looking for people, the world at large is looking for people who mean what they say and then live out what they say.
Yeah.
Where it's actually changed their life. And I think for a long time growing up in the church, it was, man, I didn't feel like I had like a testimony. I didn't feel like God really saved me from much, and that didn't really validate me. But when God actually spoke to me and revealed to me the depth of my testimony, the depth of my separation from him, the depth of my brokenness before he actually intervened, I could look somebody in the face and say, Jesus has changed my life, and not feel like I was lying.
Yeah.
And that is what people are looking for. They're looking for something that is real, is authentic.
Yeah.
And I mean, even 1 Corinthians, Paul talks about how the spiritual realm is more real than even this physical realm, and that we serve a God who's more real than you and I as we're talking. And the reality of Jesus and his message that's changed my life, that's what fuels me in evangelism, is I've actually experienced this for myself, right? It's coming from that place of intimacy, coming from that place of history with God.
Yeah.
And then being fueled in that in evangelism. And when I do, we eat pizza, we buy beauty products, we do all of these things, and we experience the benefits of them. And we have no problem nudging our coworker and saying, dude, you got to check out, bro. Have you been to DJ's? They got this massive pizza, bro. Yeah. It's cut into 35 slices. Dude, it's crazy. You got to try it out, right? Like you are zealously advocating for the cause. That's a definition of evangelism that I've heard, is just the zealous advocacy of a cause. Or, ladies, they're like, man, I bought this new product and I've been trying out my hair. Like, how does it look? Oh, it looks like so good, right? I know. It's like, you got to try it. Like, I'll show you where I bought it, like all of this different stuff, right? And it's because we've experienced lasting change, or we've experienced the benefits of these things that we've partook in. And so also when we actually have a revelation of what Jesus has done in our life, the benefits that he's actually given us, like we were separated from God, so far gone, zero chance, zero opportunity of us ever being connected to God again. And Jesus literally entered into my life and took my depression, took my perversion, took all of it and gave me purity, joy, and peace. Like I went from here, I met Jesus, and now I'm here. Like, that's crazy. Yeah. And when I really reflect on that, man, it's like I'm, telling my buddy, I'm like, yo, like I've met this man, Jesus, and he's literally changed my life,
Hey guys, thank you so much for joining us today. If you found this episode helpful or impactful at all, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel, and go ahead and share it to someone who you think it can impact as well. See you next week.